Hello everyone, welcome to another installment of the Six Cylinders podcast, and today we're all six of us for the first time in like forever in the history of the Six Cylinders podcast, and we're here to discuss the F1 2017 season, to do a all-around season review. So yeah, we're here joined by Dominic, Rasmus, the two Henrys and Andy, and first question to you all, what do you think of the season as a whole, overall?
Decent.
Good season.
Yeah, good season.
It
Good
was good,
season.
good, not great, I think.
Yes.
Not the best, not the worst.
I think the best since 2012 season.
I do agree, yeah.
Yeah,
Cool.
definitely.
It was good to have two teams at the front battling it out.
And from different teams as well,
Yeah.
making it more interesting.
More tension.
I'd rate the season maybe like an 8 out of 10. Probably. Something like that.
I'd give it a solid 6.5 because of the ending of the season.
Give it 7.5.
Yeah, 7.5.
That's only because Vettel lost the championship.
You know, it was exciting up until Malaysia.
Well, I think it's around a 7. I don't think it was the greatest, but it did to have some good races, like Baku.
If you compare to the other seasons, I think it is an 8 out of 10. Depending on what we've had before, at least from my point of view.
I think it was great. Better than, to have just two cars fighting for the championship. I had this from the same team, obviously, because this year it were also two cars. But who thought, honestly, before the start of the season that Ferrari improved that well?
I don't think anyone expected it, so it came
No.
it came as a surprise, especially the first race win, because
Yeah, definitely.
we all thought that Red Bull will be the team to challenge Mercedes, and all of a sudden Ferrari comes out with a car that is able to compete for race wins consistently and is good at every track. So it was
Yeah, definitely.
definitely not expected.
I think definitely Red Bull got too much hype just because of Adrian Newey. I think it's a lot of the same for 2018. They're hyping up the Red Bull a lot, which I don't know. Like in recent years, they have been bad at the start of the season, but if they can do it from the start of the season, having good pace and everything, it can be a title contending car, but that's a big if.
Well,
Renault engine.
they did talk that they do start bad at the season, yeah, and they work on they want to work on this area in 2018 and actually have a good start of the season, to not basically miss the first half of the season, and when they are on the pace they're already like a lot of points down and out of the championship battle. So they are saying that they're working on this. Will it actually work? We'll see at March, I guess. But yeah, I mean, it would be good if we have all three teams basically with a very little between them from the start of the season till the end.
Well, hopefully next year Red Bull could make it a three-way fight for the championship. Especially, they've got with drivers good enough. Max Verstappen especially, he's proved to be good in the second half. And I feel like they could definitely challenge if their car is as good as Ferrari's was this season.
Well, okay, I think we're finished with the introduction part of the podcast, talking about the season as a whole. I guess we can now talk about team by team, building our way up from Sauber all the way up to Mercedes from the Constructors' Championship standings. So yeah, we're gonna start with Sauber, who finished last, 10th position. How many points did they have? Was it 5?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 5.
Yes.
So
Well, I think it was a season to forget there.
yeah, it wasn't like the best of seasons. I mean, it was expected with the year-old Ferrari engine,
Yeah.
and of course,
And they-
not the best there in the world for sure. But
Yeah, and they began early to plan for the new season when they have also new 2018 Ferrari engines there, and Alfa Romeo Sauber, of course.
Yeah, that
And,
will be very interesting to see how much Alfa Romeo
yeah,
will
but-
bring to Sauber for next season. And talking about
But
Alfa,
this year wasn't
yeah.
good.
Talking about the Alfa Romeo deal with Sauber, we need also to discuss it because this happened after the last F1 podcast we did. They also announced their driver lineup with Charles Leclerc and Marcus Ericsson for next season.
Which is bullshit, in my opinion. Like, Verline, he would give the team more money because of the points he earns in the races than what
Yeah.
Ericsson brings to the table. So it doesn't really make sense.
Yes, but Verline was out of the question even from the start when this deal was starting to get rumored. It was either gonna be Ericsson or Giovinazzi next to Leclerc. So
Yes.
still, if I had to choose someone from those two, it would for sure be Giovinazzi. I mean, Ericsson is the only full season driver this season who hasn't scored a point. He didn't score a point in 2016 as well. I don't really think that he deserves that seat.
Says a lot.
Yes. The things like Ericsson, he crashes a lot as well. Like he costs a lot to the team as well, as much as he's bringing money in for the team.
The thing I was thinking about is Alfa Romeo came to Sauber. They are gonna pump in some money, but if Sauber wants to still keep Marcus Ericsson to bring them money, how much do you think Alfa Romeo are willing to give Sauber? Like, I don't know. If they still want to pay driver, then they're maybe not that close of a relationship. I don't know.
Well, I think for the lineup for the upcoming season, well, Leclerc definitely should be there. He's been phenomenal in F2 this past season. And, well, as you guys have said, Ericsson is not very good, is he? After scoring hardly any points.
Yeah, I think now that Kvyat and Palmer aren't there next year, Ericsson will probably be the worst driver on the grid, to be honest.
Oh, I think he was this year as well, in my opinion. I mean, I rate Danny highly, and Jolien is not that bad. He has his moments sometimes, so
Ericsson is the worst this season.
yeah.
I guess Palmer was good in Singapore, I guess.
Palmer had his moments, and sometimes it was for bad luck from reliability, but he had his moments, which Ericsson didn't really have. I mean, some people argue about the Baku situation where he basically let Verline through, but if he had to let him through, then Verline was probably faster. And
But
at the end of
no GP2 champion is a bad driver.
Yeah, that's true.
yeah, that's correct. So
Just look at Lewis Hamilton.
yeah, well, we're talking about the world champion, so if you are a Formula 1 world champion, you're probably not that bad behind the wheel. Anyways, this is a bit for later on. We need to finish on Sauber first. I guess there's not much to say about the season. I mean, it was bad. What else can we say about the season? I really hope that this
Nothing.
Alfa Romeo deal really brings them closer to the midfield and scoring points often, but I don't really know what else to say.
Yeah,
Well-
I think that this is a season they want to forget. But next year they will have a new updated engine, the 2018 one, and plus they will have Alfa Romeo backing them, and they still will have a Charles Leclerc behind the wheel. And I think they could be in the midfield if they make a good chassis. Yes.
Hopefully they do. All right,
McLaren.
we move on to McLaren, one of the hottest topics for this and next season. All of the engine stuff going on there. What do you guys have to say about the McLaren season? First of all, we'll talk about 2017, and then we'll talk about expectations for 2018.
They basically roasted more engines than I roasted people on Twitter, so pretty bad season from my point of view. But at the end, they really started to show their pace. And some tracks like Spain, they showed that they had a really good like chassis, but it's just the engine that kept bringing them down. But I think for what they had this season, it was a pretty good season. It could have been worse.
Well,
Well, at the start of the season, we saw that they were quite off the pace in testing, and that showed for the first few races until Spain. And during the second half, they've improved, not a lot, but they definitely have done some improvements. So they've been beating Haas occasionally and definitely Sauber, but
well, Honda
They
did.
beat Toro Rosso and Renault sometimes as well. Sometimes.
Yeah, I mean Honda made some improvements mid-season, which definitely worked to an extent. I mean, they definitely closed the gap a little bit, but it's still not what they want and what they need. So I really fear that Toro Rosso next season will be in the place of McLaren. And knowing that Toro Rosso's budget is a lot less than what McLaren have, because McLaren is big team. I really fear that Toro Rosso might be in a worse position than McLaren was this year.
Well, to give you some facts, McLaren was P6 last year, 2016, and this season they were P9. It's just got 30 points, and last year 76. So I think they made a step backwards,
Yes.
not forward.
I mean, especially
Because,
finish.
yeah.
No, you go.
They took a step backward, but I think like if you look at what they had this season, it wasn't that bad. Like if you look at the beginning, they like the engines lasted not even a race. So
They had
definitely did better than I expected them to do.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely made a step backwards, especially at the first half of the season. I think their engine was even worse than 2016, and they had some problems with mounting the engine into the car. They had a lot of vibrations, which was causing the engine to shake in the car, and that was causing most of the reliability issues in the first half of the season. They sorted it out in the second half, and they started, they definitely improved and started to score points regularly, which was good to see, because Alonso and Van Dorn are two very talented drivers. And I was actually surprised. Let's talk about the drivers here now a bit. I was surprised at one point of the season where I saw Van Dorn ahead of Alonso at the championship. Eventually Alonso overtook him, but Van Dorn did a good debut season, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah,
He's-
Van Dorn was amazing this season.
he's performed the max that he could with the crap car he was in. So, like in Spain, he came like P6 or 7 and done some stellar driving.
Yeah, I mean,
Driver of the season, in my opinion.
Van Dorn did start off pretty slowly, and then he sort of like around Hungary he started to catch up to Alonso, and both did very good job with what they had this season. And I definitely expect, let's move on now to 2018, I definitely expect them to battle for podiums next season with that Renault engine. But will they be in the championship fight? I'm not really sure.
I doubt it.
I doubt
Because-
it.
Without the championship.
The Mercedes and Ferrari engine are too good, especially Mercedes. But I definitely think Alonso will be on the podium next season.
Definitely.
Red
And
Bull
we
with
shouldn't
Renault
under
engines.
we shouldn't underestimate Van Dorn. I think he's also a good driver, and
Yeah.
as you said, he was quite as fast as Alonso sometimes. So maybe he could even finish on the podium next season if the Renault engines are more reliable than at the end of the season. That was really not not the best I've seen.
Yeah, well, both Red Bull and McLaren have good chassis, and they have equal engines next year, so it would be good. So if Red Bull are in the title fight, that will mean that also McLaren will probably be in the title fight as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, let's hope for the sake of the sport and for our own entertainment that McLaren are at the front next season. If they battle for championship, that will be also good, but at least to run the front and battle for race wins sometimes and consistently for podiums. That would be a good step for them. Basically what Red Bull
So,
was doing
now-
this season, yeah. So, are
Now
we,
Haas.
yeah, are we done with McLaren, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so we move on to Haas, 8th place, same position as last season, but how many points? They got more points than last season, and the fact that they had a second driver who was actually capable of scoring points, not finishing P11 all the time, did help a little bit. But what are your thoughts on Haas this season?
Well, as they are a fairly new team still. I think for their second season, it wasn't that bad. They've got two good drivers. It's just down to the car, really. If their car was like Red Bull pace, which I doubt next season, I feel like they could get a few top 5 finishes for both occasionally.
And I don't think that Magnussen is really that good. Well, obviously he's better than Esteban Gutierrez last season, but he does too many crazy things like moves under braking and driving drivers off the track. So he wastes points there. So it could have been a bit better this year, but. All in all, yeah, they scored more points than last year, and that's good for them.
Their car was...
When you're talking about Magnussen, I think we look too much into it, because like if you look at his penalties, he's only gotten one penalty for pushing another driver off track or something. Only one penalty. And then you look at the move he did on Massa in Japan. It was a bit harsh, but Alonso did the same thing last year on Massa in America, and everyone was basically fine with it. So
Yeah.
He's a decent driver, like not bad, not very good, but decent.
Yeah.
Well, Haas...
And I think Haas did worse than I expected, because they looked better at the beginning of the season. They just failed to upgrade the car as they wanted at the end of the season.
Yeah, Haas definitely had a very good car at the start of the season. I mean, if you remember, Roman Grosjean was P6 in qualifying at Australia, and they definitely had a good car, but they had too many issues with the car itself, too many issues which they couldn't find a way to solve. But when the car was fast and they could set it up right, like they did in Austria, for example, they were bang on the pace. Roman Grosjean was running P4 at one point of the Austrian Grand Prix. So when they set up the car correctly, and when the car didn't have any issues, which was very rarely this season, but still happened, they were really quick.
Yeah, I think they had much issues with the brakes, and Grosjean doesn't felt very comfortable with this.
Not only with the brakes,
also
it's a lot of issues with the car as a whole.
He moves too much.
And he spins a lot in practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But his experience is crucial to Haas, as they're fairly new, and he's not the worst driver, so...
Yeah, and
But I still like it.
did you guys see the rumors on the internet that Maserati could potentially sponsor Haas for 2018?
Yes.
What?
I saw.
Nope.
I saw.
It was
Any
a rumor
help?
in the internet last week this could still potentially, even though they, what was it? They already announced very early on in 2017 that they're gonna keep Grosjean and Magnussen. If Maserati sponsor Haas, is there a possibility to see Giovinazzi there, or it's not possible at all? What do you think?
I don't think so.
Well, he does do free practice ones with them, so
He will do free practice once with Sauber in 2018. I think he had 7 planned to do, so we'll see. But yeah, if also Maserati comes to F1 as a sponsor to Haas, it will be, another team that is basically a Ferrari B team. With the Ferrari, will have basically 2 B teams if Maserati comes. And
I heard that Chevrolet could be their engine supply. It might not be true, but it's a rumor, and I think that as Haas is an American company, is that the right word? And Chevrolet is an American car manufacturer, so that intertwines quite well.
well, yeah, but
I don't think Chevrolet started
yeah.
building engines though.
They haven't been in F1 for. Have they ever been in F1? I don't think so. If someone
Don't know, but an IndyCar.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
they do make IndyCar engines, but F1 engines, especially right now, are a lot more complicated.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I doubt it though. I just thought I'd bring it up.
yeah. Okay, so
I think if Chevrolet were going to join, they wouldn't join until the engine rules change again.
yeah, exactly.
It's like we saw with Honda, they came in a year late.
I don't think that
and they've never caught up.
engine manufacturers will change at all until the new regs. They're either gonna stay the 4 engine manufacturers we have right now, or at the very least Honda will just pull out of the sport, and that will leave 3 engine manufacturers. Nothing else will change until 2021, where the engine regs are changing.
Okay, should we move on?
Yeah.
Or-
P7 in the constructors, by a very, very small margin, went to Toro Rosso. They got beaten by Renault in the last race. Toro Rosso, what do we think about their season? Started off pretty promising. They had the decent pace. They were getting easily into Q3, but they just gradually faded away as the season progressed. I guess they just couldn't keep up with the aero upgrades.
Yes. In pre-season, they were almost as fast as the Red Bull, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Or am I wrong? I think they were almost as fast.
Well,
But as you said, they didn't upgrade the car enough through the season, so they can't afford it back just as long as the season went. And of course they kicked 1 driver, 2 drivers even. Or not, no, 1 left for Renault, of course. But they kicked 1 driver.
Andy, say something.
What do you say?
Your opinion about Kvyat and the whole thing.
About what?
Kvyat. And the driver changes and Toro Rosso season.
I wasn't paying attention, sorry.
Well, my opinion, I'll say mine now then. Well, I feel like at the beginning of the season, they both had Sainz and Kvyat, and I thought they were alright, I guess, but until Silverstone, I think that's when the team changed a lot, because that was Maggots and Beckett's, I think, when Kvyat and Sainz crashed out, and I feel like their relationship changed quite a bit then. And also the head of Toro Rosso, I can't remember his name, I think that's when he realised about Kvyat and how he's not as good as Sainz, because at that point I think Carlos had like 40 points and Kvyat had none.
Not none. He had 5 points this season.
Yeah, but in USA.
4, okay, 4.
Well, I think And then obviously what happened was Palmer was rumoured to be booted out and Sainz could make way, which did happen. But then Kvyat got booted out as well and was replaced by Gasly, wasn't
I
it?
think Kvyat should have stayed. It was quite unfair how they treated him.
Did you see?
Even though he didn't perform.
Did you see Helmut Marko's interview where he said that Kvyat
Yeah.
has more potential than Gasly and
Yeah.
Hartley?
But he kicked him. He's such a hypocrite.
He just lost his speed, according to Helmut Marko. But he has more potential than Hartley and Gasly.
Definitely.
That's a kind of weird way to show to Danny that he still rates him. Yeah, I'm gonna drop you, but you know you have a better potential than our two drivers. Even though we signed them, not you. He's still good.
What do you guys think of Brandon Hartley's performance this fall?
What I find interesting is the fact that they approached Hartley, because he's like 28 now, I think, or approaching 30s, or he might be 30. I don't know exactly.
28.
28, thank
Oh.
you, Dom. Yeah, I thought it'd be someone else like in the Young Drivers Program, or maybe
Kvyat
just
staying?
stick. Yeah, exactly.
Well, he approached Hartley because Hartley approached him at Hungary, was it? He said it many times in an interview that he called Helmut Marko. He told him, "Hey, I'm a different driver than I was 8 years ago. If you ever need me, I'm free." And I guess Helmut Marko decided to, you know what, give it a go. And
He was the for.
I like Hartley,
like-
so I think he's a good driver. So next season, if Honda gets it right somehow, praise, both Gasly and Hartley will do a good job hopefully next season. They're both very good drivers. So yeah, I do think that Toro Rosso have a promising lineup for next season. So it's up to Honda to deliver an engine which is capable of, bringing Toro Rosso to consistently points.
Yeah. Brandon will definitely be better next season than it was at the end of the season. He will have a lot more simulator training and everything. Fitness, and I think it will be pretty good next season. I don't know if he's going to be as fast as Gasly, but I think he's going to be good.
Okay, so
We done? With
I think
them?
we're done.
Or
I think we're done with Toro
Renault.
Rosso, so we move on to Renault. Big improvement from last year, P6 in the standings 2017. I think they said they want to finish P5 before the start of the season, so maybe not, what they wanted to have, but still
They couldn't do it because of Palmer.
they had some issues with the reliability during the season and some bad luck, and also Julian Palmer, which I say it again, he's not a bad driver, but I mean when he had his moment he was pretty good, but
Like in Singapore.
yeah, he had some reliability issues, he had some bad luck. Hulkenberg also had some bad luck as well. He was very good in qualifying at the start of the season, but at the very start of the season, Renault was good in qualifying and then faded away in the race, which was a thing they kind of like fixed during the midpoint of the season, but still, their qualifying was definitely better than their race this season.
If Renault had Sainz and Hulkenberg from the beginning, I think they could have managed P5 in the standings. Because Carlos Sainz has really impressed me with his driving now when he's at Renault. Like, he directly got up to pace as Hulkenberg.
Yeah,
So,
Sainz did.
They could have managed P5 maybe.
Yeah, I mean, considering that.
Yeah.
Wait, did Williams finish? Yeah, Williams finished P5. Well, I definitely think they could. They could have maybe got P5, but there's no point in thinking about it now. It's happened, it's done. But still, Sainz did a very stellar job in that few races he had in the Renault, and he could have scored even more points if it wasn't for Abu Dhabi, where the tire came off after his pit stop. But he still did a very good job, and getting points in his first race in USA, and Yeah, he did a very good job this season.
Talking about USA, I wanna shout out his overtake in
Yes.
the right-handers on the outside.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I think it was a Haas driver, but he overtook him on the outside.
It was Perez, I think.
It was Perez.
Perez.
Oh yeah, it was Paris even.
Yeah, I don't
that was really nice to watch.
I don't
And
think there's ever been an overtake there before that.
no, never. There's never been an overtake.
Which was quite
I definitely look forward to see the Hulkenberg and Sainz combo next year.
They're a very exciting
Yes,
pair.
definitely.
Very exciting pair. If Renault
Well, I think
if Renault delivers a good car, then definitely they can also be there.
Well, I think their season's been pretty good, apart from Palmer, but he did do quite well at Singapore. And Hulkenberg's put in some good, consistent performances when the car hasn't been up to scratch. Like at Silverstone, he was like P5 all of the race until Ricciardo overtook him. And he's came sixth a couple more times, but I can't remember
The
when.
example
And so-
of bad luck for Renault this year. Hulkenberg was running P3 at the Singapore Grand Prix and then he ran out of hydraulics or something, I don't remember.
Yeah,
And he had to retire.
I feel so sad for him, never getting that podium.
Yeah, I really hope he
needs one.
does get one next season. If Renault actually makes a good car, a better car than
think
this
Renault-
season. Yeah.
I think next year they'll get podiums, so hopefully
Yeah.
Hulkenberg and Sainz.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree. Well, they improved this season very much, and even though Palmer raced many races for them, but I think the reliability problems at the end of the season, they were really well, Renault just can hope that they won't be there next season, because it was really frustrating and thrown out points. I mean, it wasn't just Renault engines, also Toro Rosso and Red Bull. So they have to work on this. And then, I agree that they can drive for podiums next season.
Yeah.
Same.
Is that all about Renault? Should we move on?
Should we move? Yes,
Yeah.
move on.
Alright, so next up is Williams, who finished P5. What do we say?
Hashtag no error.
What do we say about Williams? I mean, they
Good first half.
they didn't have
Decent.
they definitely didn't have a very good car, especially at places where they've been good in the past. For example, Austria, which is definitely a power unit, like more power unit based track, and
Yeah, but
they still
but
were.
they bought an upgrade like to Austria, and after that the car was
Yeah.
just a dog. It was horrible to drive. I don't know exactly what they did, but it definitely didn't work. And except from that, I think they have been decent the whole season. And on the driver's part, Massa, he's been doing a pretty good job. And Stroll, I don't know. He's been decent this season. He obviously got the podium, which Massa could have won that race, but his car gave up. But I feel like Stroll did a decent job still. Could have been worse.
It
Yeah.
was a good first season. Despite I never heard of him before the season started, I think he put in a few good performances, like at Baku, not making sure he crashes out. And Monza was a good performance. He did well in qualifying, like Ocon.
Yeah.
And I would say he's definitely improving and adjusting to life in Formula One.
Yeah.
For his age, it was a good first season. I think he was just 18 and then turned 19, and he scored nearly as much points as Massa, and I think it's quite decent, and he will improve next season.
I'm still not fully convinced that he is that sort of a driver like Verstappen is, for example. But he still
No,
is. He still is a good driver. Definitely, he did a decent first
No one is
first season. He could have been better, but he obviously needs some time to adjust at the start of the season, and those big expectations from him. He started basically delivering at the midpoint of the season, especially around Baku, which was very impressive still from him. But yeah, Williams as a whole just didn't impress me that much this season, to be honest. I thought that they would do better. Especially at the start of the season, they were in front of Force India.
Yeah, they scored around 50 points less than last year, and in general, I don't understand what really happened to Williams. I mean, they were the second best team after the hybrid era began, if I remember right, and yeah, now they are fifth or maybe sixth next season, and I don't know why, or the low budget, or I don't know. Well, maybe they should have been better than Force India because they are a ex World Championship team. So yeah, I don't really know.
I don't really think that their budget is that low. They're Williams after all. I mean, even though they're not in their best period right now, I don't think that their budget is too low.
I think the budget is pretty low because they're only getting pay drivers, aren't they? Really? I mean, they've got Stroll, and then next year they might have Sorokin. If they're only hiring pay drivers, then they must be short on money.
True.
Yeah.
We'll see. That's actually an interesting point. That the driver lineup. Are they seriously not gonna sign a driver like Pascal Wehrlein, who is gonna score them consistently points and with that way bringing money to the team? But they're gonna sign a pay driver who's okay. And I haven't really watched that much of Sirotkin, so I'm not gonna really judge. But if you say he's a pay driver, I don't know. I still want Wehrlein to get that seat. And the thing that they delayed the announcement until January is giving me some hope, very little. That is gonna be either Pascal or maybe even Kvyat. But
why are they delaying the announcements?
Because they need drivers to drive their car.
Yeah, but they said on Friday they would announce it on Friday.
They said they were supposed to say it on Friday, and on Friday they said that they're gonna say it in January.
Then they're gonna say it before the day of the Grand Prix weekend.
Who's gonna test their car
should.
then? Only Stroll driving every day of the winter testing.
I think they should sign a driver who has more experience than Stroll because he's very young still, and the other driver should teach him a bit. And Sirotkin isn't that right choice then.
Pascal Wehrlein.
Yeah.
I mean, Stroll said in an interview that the only thing he wants from his teammate is to be a team player. Which I don't really get. Like, team player, what does it mean? To basically let him be driver number one? I don't know. I mean,
driver number two.
If he has Sirotkin as a teammate, he'll technically be more experienced with F1 and therefore will probably have a number one driver status. I don't know. But for example, if Wehrlein is in the car, Wehrlein has proved himself as a really quick driver, scoring points in the worst car of the grid. And Stroll wouldn't exactly be a number one driver. And also we know that Wehrlein isn't quite a team player as well.
Knowing Williams, well, this is not very 2017 stuff, but they have had number one drivers such as Nelson Piquet when him and Mansell were teammates, and when Mansell was teammates with Patrese, he was definitely the number one. So I feel like if Sirotkin went to Williams, Stroll would definitely be number one.
Definitely.
I don't think they'd have a number one and a number two driver because they're only in the midfield. Like if they were the best team, they might do that, but if they're in the midfield, there's no point.
True.
Yeah,
Well, if you
got a
think
point.
about it, if one driver has a better opportunity than the other to get points, they obviously change. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well,
Should we move on to Force India?
yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about Williams. So, Force India, another very good season from them. They replicated their finish P4. I'm not really sure if they got more points or not than last season though. Did they?
I don't think I think they did. Yes.
I'm not really sure. That doesn't really matter too much, but still, they got a very good season, and unfortunately for them, neither Perez nor Ocon scored podium this season compared to the 2 podiums from Perez last season. They definitely had their opportunities, especially Canada and Baku, where Baku is a race everyone claims that could have won, so maybe the Force India also could have won the race. Who knows?
Yes.
So
Probably.
yeah.
Force India had 14 points more this season than last season, but I think like they dominated the midfield, like 187 points, and William is at 83. Like for having such a low budget, amazing team.
Yes.
Like they couldn't have done better than they did if you think about it.
Yeah, very
True.
stellar performance from Force
Really
India.
good driver as well with Ocon. Definitely one of the best drivers out there, maybe future champion. Like this is
For
his
sure.
first full season, so and being on pace with Paris, yeah, I can't say much more than it's looking really good for them.
Yeah, I was very impressed by Ocon this season. He definitely did a very good job. He needed some time to adapt at the start of the season. Perez was definitely faster than him at the start of the season, but eventually he caught up and was, sometimes consistently outperforming Sergio. So he did a very good job this season, and I'm expecting more from him next season. And as for Perez, another good season from him. And yeah, and I don't really have anything to say more about them. They could have definitely scored podiums. They had the pace. Needed also maybe a bit of, more better teammate relationship to do this, but yeah.
I think after Belgium, when they crashed into each other twice, I think since then they sort of got over it and they didn't really crash into each other after that. So I think the teammate relations is probably sorted
I don't
out,
think they were allowed to race after Belgium though, were they?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. That is true.
But I think it's quite impressive how they handled the situation.
Yes, that was
they
true.
have crashed.
Yeah.
So great season. Next team, Red Bull.
So
Is it Red Bull?
going,
Yeah.
we're stepping into the territory of the big teams finally. So we start off with Red Bull. I'd say
Big unreliability.
looking at before preseason and all the expectations about this new aerodynamic rules, I think looking at that, the season was disappointing because everyone thought that they were the ones who are going to challenge Mercedes, and they really weren't, especially at the first half of the season. But looking at where they started the season and where they finish it in terms of performance, it's a good step. They have
definitely faster at Ferrari at some tracks at the end.
I wouldn't say they were faster, but they were on the pace. They were very consistently on the pace in the last part of the season, and they definitely showed that they have a good development rate. But they definitely need to start from the start of the season, bang on the pace, and not being like a second and a half like they were at the start of the season, and just catch up by the end of the season. they need to be like 2011, where they were bang on the pace since the first race, and yeah, to be in the championship fight.
I think this season was good as they finished third, but obviously due to reliability, Max was suffering quite a lot during the first half, and Ricciardo in the second.
Yeah.
But they got 3 wins in the end, which I must say is very good, despite that.
I think they swapped cars mid-season.
Yeah, I was
Unlucky for some.
Yeah,
Well,
they
let's not
had
said that.
they RB13.
Was an Verstappen fan.
They had RB13 had combined 13 retirements, 7 for Verstappen and 6 for Ricardo.
Does someone here have to say about Verstappen's season?
Really good.
I'd say, yeah,
Very
he had
good.
a challenging season, especially the first half. A lot of retirements. He had good performances. Once
He was
again,
better than Rick
I'm gonna say once again he could have won Baku, as every driver can, say that he could have won Baku. Everyone could have won Baku, even Fernando Alonso. Doesn't matter now, but yeah. At the second part of the season, he definitely showed that he was faster than Ricardo, and yeah, I think he had a better season than Ricardo, even though the points don't really show this. But yeah, I'm expecting next season. Next season he will be, especially if Red Bull have a good car, he will be up there with Vettel and Hamilton battling for the championship.
I was really shocked at Malaysia when he overtook Hamilton and was like, really, Red Bull, the fastest car on the track?
They weren't. Ferrari were
really surprised.
Ferrari were the fastest, but they just messed up
I
their
was expecting
reliability.
Mercedes to be dominant in Malaysia.
But didn't Hamilton's engine fail or something, and then he started to cash up at the end?
Yeah.
Or something. I don't remember quite exactly.
Yeah, and as for Ricardo, we talked about Verstappen, now Ricardo. He had
The person
a
that has
Very consistent.
good season. Yeah, very consistent. That's the word. How many podiums did he have?
Podium.
Did he have in a row? 5 or 6 in a row.
6.
From Spain all the way to Austria. 5. I think that makes it. I think it makes it 5 because he wasn't on the
5, yeah.
5, which is still impressive, and yeah,
I think he got like 10 in total.
he did a good job. That's all I can say. I mean,
Did
How
he
many
finish
shoes?
ahead of Raikkonen in the championship?
no, Raikkonen got him at the last race because Ricardo DNF'd.
The thing with Red Bull is they might not have the fastest car, but they definitely got a brilliant driver lineup. Because Verstappen, he's obviously going to win championships in the future. And Ricciardo, although having 6 Grand Prix wins, he's very consistent and always gives his all.
Yeah,
Well, that's the difference between Red Bull and the other top teams, Mercedes and Ferrari. Because Red Bull have got 2 really good drivers, whereas Ferrari have got 1 great driver, 1 poor driver, and it's the same at Mercedes. They've got a good driver and a bad driver. So I think
I'd
if
say-
they were all equal cars, Red Bull would win the constructors.
I also wanted to briefly talk about Daniel Ricciardo's contract situation because I believe his contract is running out at the end of the 2018 season, and seeing interviews from Christian Horner and the Red Bull team boss and also other people from Red Bull that Verstappen is basically the number 1 driver there. So I think that if Ricciardo doesn't sign a new contract, where does that leave him? Does he go to Ferrari? Does he go to Mercedes? Does he go anywhere else?
Would he go to Ferrari? Oh.
No.
Well, I don't really know because as obviously there are a few drivers that will get top seats within the next few years. I feel like Verstappen's secure at Mercedes or Ferrari. And I feel like Ocon will be with Mercedes in the near future. But Ricciardo, I don't know, because Kimi is 38 now, and he's getting on a bit. So I think he'll,
Yeah.
I think he will leave or retire.
Now,
I think-
if Kimi is a good second driver as he was this year, I think Ferrari will keep him because they want to go for the driver's title, and he will be helping Sebastian.
Yeah, and I think if Kimi retires one day, he will be replaced by Leclerc.
Yes.
And I don't know. There's no place for Ricciardo anymore. I think Ocon will replace Bottas in 2019, and then only place is free if Hamilton retires. So
Yeah, but I think that Ricciardo will stay in Red Bull because we've got, of course, Leclerc coming in for that Raikkonen seat when Kimi retires. And if potentially, Bottas doesn't perform in 2018 or he performs as he performed in the second half of this 2017 season, I think he'll also get axed by Mercedes. And yeah, I think that the replacement for Bottas, if he goes, will 99% be Ocon. So I don't think there is a place for Ricciardo in either Mercedes or Ferrari. Except if, as you said, Lewis decides to retire and do something with music, or I don't know.
Part of me feels like he might retire like around 2019, 2020, because I don't feel like once he's won at least 5 titles, he'll bugger off anyway and try new formulas.
Who, Hamilton?
Yeah, especially Formula E.
Yeah. He seems to keep an eye on that one.
or IndyCar. IndyCar.
No, I feel like.
He's watching a lot of replays of other formulas.
But seriously though, I feel like
sport.
I feel like he's gonna get at least 6 world titles, and then then he'll leave because he'll be passing Schumacher's win record, and he's already done everything else. So that's his aim.
He's gonna be a rapper probably, or a vlogger like Nico.
No, it's probably gonna get in fashion with those amazing haircuts and.
So Ferrari now.
Yes, let's move on to Ferrari, the team in second to the Constructors' Championship this season. I don't think that anybody expected them to do that well, especially battle for the championship up until the penultimate race, the race before the penultimate race in Mexico, where Vettel officially lost it. But I mean, they had a disappointing year in terms of the fact that they didn't win the championship where they had the chance to. But also they had a positive year because they made a massive step forwards, and compared to last year they were really, really good. And no, I don't think that anyone expected them to do that well, especially to battle for championship up until this late in the season. And I think they put on a good fight to Mercedes, and I really hope they improve even more next year for the sake of the title fight, to have all 3 teams battling it out at the front. And of course Ferrari is Ferrari, so F1 needs Ferrari at the front. So yeah.
Well, after a poor 2016 season, I wasn't expecting much of them, to be honest.
I mean, even though they didn't win the World Championship, they still had a very good season. And especially for the first part of the season, I think they were on par with Mercedes. Like the first 6 or 7 races, their car was just about on par with Mercedes in terms of performance. I mean, of course they had better tyre wear, let's say for example with Australia that got proved, and better aero, but as a whole package I think their car was just about on par with Mercedes. But then I think after Canada, when Mercedes introduced another upgrade, that's where they really started to get ahead in car performance, and where they, started to catch up to Ferrari in terms of the championship. And even though Vettel was leading the World Championship up until Italy, where he lost it, he still had the chance to turn it around in the next few races, because after Italy was coming Singapore. It was a track that, was supposed to favor Ferrari.
Singapore was heartbreaking.
We all know what happened there. And yes, ever since Singapore, the Asia fall of Ferrari, those 3 Asia races where basically the title challenges fall, is what made the season disappointing for Ferrari, at least in my point of view.
Definitely.
Yeah.
No, I don't have much to say about Ferrari this season. right now.
I guess we could move on to Mercedes then now. Mercedes, the world champions for a fourth consecutive year in a row. What are your opinions on their season, guys?
Yeah, it's impressive that they challenged the title, although there were reglement changes. And Hamilton did a great job. Obviously, he finished every race, and that in the points. And yeah, Bottas began strong, but struggled during the season. But he got better at the end, and
then got worse.
how worse?
But Hamilton was flawless.
Well, after Belgium, he started underperforming.
Yeah.
After he got the contract.
Yes, the contract. That's like this contract was like his only motivation to do well, because once he signed that new contract and was assured of a seat for next season, his performance just dropped massively. If he performs like he performed in the second half of the season next year, I definitely think that he will get dropped, and it will be in favor of a certain Esteban Ocon.
Ocon for Mercedes.
Yeah, impressive stuff from Mercedes this year. As John mentioned, fourth consecutive year. Even after the regulations changes, they still managed to get out there, and even though they had a few issues this year compared to the last 3 years when it was pretty much flawless for them, but even though they had some issues this year, they still managed to get it in pretty confident way to get both titles. And I mean, I don't think there's much to say about the Mercedes season at all. I mean, it was just impressive, even though we could talk about the diva as Toto Wolff described it early on in the season, but I don't think there's much to say. They at the end of the season, they managed to somewhat understand it, and their performances were generally more consistent, especially towards the last few races. And a track, for example, biggest example was a track like Abu Dhabi, where everyone expected Ferrari to do well because of the nature of the track, the 90-degree corner, especially in the last sector. And this last sector was the place where Mercedes excelled in Abu Dhabi. So they did a good job in understanding their diva. So I expect them next year to be as well there and the team to beat. And I don't think there's anything else we can say about Mercedes right now. If anyone wants to add something, or should we just move on to the awards then?
The awards?
Alright, and so we're gonna begin with the awards.
Can I begin?
We got a few awards planned here. I think there are 8 or 9, and
Can I begin?
I believe the first one is biggest surprise of the season, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, so biggest
Hello?
surprise of the season for me in a good way was Ferrari, because of, I don't think that anyone expected them to do that well, so that was a big surprise. And in a bad way, I would say McLaren, because I think maybe I myself expected more of them. What about you guys?
Ferrari. Biggest
Yeah.
disappointment.
Red Bull.
McLaren.
Yeah, I could probably class McLaren as the biggest disappointment, actually, not as a surprise in a bad way, but as a disappointment. But also in the biggest disappointments, I would add Valtteri Bottas, because I expected more from him, definitely.
I thought he was gonna do better than he did. He still won races, but still.
I thought he could challenge for the title, but he, especially in the second half of the season, the first half he did not so bad, not so bad, but the second half of the season he definitely underperformed. At least that's how I saw it. What about you guys?
I'd say biggest disappointment was Red Bull.
Oh yeah, that as
I
well.
think biggest disappointment was Honda.
Honda? True. That's a close second.
Honda, because it was the third year and they just haven't improved at all. So I think that was the biggest disappointment.
I think the biggest disappointment was Julian Palmer, because Renault had the potential to perform better, like Hülkenberg shown, and yeah, it was just disappointing for me.
Right, and for craziest moment, I think, do we all agree on Baku, or at least I say Baku? Don't know about you.
Singapore.
I actually don't know.
I think the craziest moment for me was when Vettel overtook Ricardo on the outside in China.
Yeah,
Uh,
but that's the best overtake
yes,
for me.
but it still was the craziest moment.
Same.
So
Yeah, it's all fuming up there in back.
I'd say the craziest moment was Stroll on the podium.
Let's say Baku as a whole was the craziest moment of the season.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that goes.
After the craziest moment, we have the worst moment of the season. What do you think, guys? I think the worst moment of the season, in my opinion, was Singapore, or maybe Malaysia. So that's where probably the championship ended. So, in terms of the championship, the worst moment was this, I think.
If it had went well for Sebastian Vettel and he still lost the championship in the last round, like fair enough. But like I didn't want it to be like this.
Singapore and Japan.
Yeah, I agree with Singapore actually.
Well, after the worst moment of the season, we have a best race contender. So, Baku, do we all say Baku, or
Best race, Australia.
Australia didn't have many overtakes.
Baku.
It was pretty, yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty uneventful race, even though, you know, yeah, first win for Ferrari since a lot of time, but
Nothing. It was boring.
Season opener. Surprise, surprise, Ferrari is good again.
yeah, but there wasn't really much overtaking, not really much on track action. I don't know.
It was dull.
I don't think that's a best race, but it's your opinion, so yeah.
It's not an exciting race.
Yeah, after best race, we have best overtake of the season, and Rasmus already said it. My best overtake of the season is also Sebastian on Ricardo, China turn 4. Oh, was it turn 4? I don't know.
Sebastian on Ricardo in China. Around the
I
outside.
think Ricardo's triple overtake.
Like, we can say honorable mentions also go, at least to me, I would say Vettel and Ricardo, but honorable mentions also go to Vettel and Bottas in Spain and Ricardo in Baku, even though it was sort of just a dive bomb down the inside, it was still a very good overtake. And also, I would say Ricardo on Raikkonen in Monza.
Yeah. Same. Worst driver?
So after best overtake, we have worst driver of the season, and here I would say Marcus Ericsson.
I'd say Ericsson as well.
To me, at least, because we have also Kvyat, we have
Ericsson.
We have Palmer, but they both had their moments. Like Danny had a point in Austin, which I think was the biggest highlight of the season for him. It was also his last race for him, unfortunately. And also Jolyon did have his moments, even though, you know, he had some reliability issues, some bad luck. He did have his moments as well. And Q3 in Bahrain, he had a good weekend in Belgium, but gearbox penalty happened. And also Singapore was the high for him for sure, and I will always remember going down the inside of Bottas. It was a very good overtake. So yeah, I would say for me it was Ericsson. Don't know about you guys. What do you think?
I say Palmer because, as I said, the potential, and Ericsson is too easy because the Sauber is also not a very good car, but Renault was. Yeah,
You have
that's
a point
why
there.
Palmer. Yeah, he's got points in Singapore where 5 crashes or so held before him. So yeah.
Okay, so we've got worst driver out the way now. The penultimate award is for best rookie of the season. Now, I don't think there was any other rookie than
Stroll.
than Lance Stroll. So what else? Who else can we say? Lance Stroll? I don't know.
Ocon was kind of like a half.
Oh,
Yeah, but it was
yeah.
he debuted
I'd
last
still
season.
say
I'd
Van
say-
Dorn.
Oh yeah, Van Dorn.
because
Oh,
Van
oh
Dorn,
yeah, Vando.
Van Dorn was in the same place as Alonso.
Yeah,
So
Van Dorn,
Yeah,
he,
that's good
he
too.
it's
I
more of a
say
rookie season for him because he only took part in one race last season. So yeah, I would say Van Dorn too actually.
Yeah,
Yeah, Van Dorn, he was pretty good, especially the second half of the season where he started to he was more on the pace with Fernando, and he was actually sometimes outperforming him, and especially after Malaysia where he was ahead of him in points. So yeah, I'd say Van Dorn actually. Yeah, I didn't classify him as a rookie when I first thought of this, but yeah, I'd say Van Dorn. Yeah,
best driver.
and then we have the final award, which is driver of the season.
Hamilton.
I'm
He
Ham.
never made a mistake except in Brazil.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be biased, so I'm gonna say Hamilton as well
Yeah, like
because he had
you can't
no
take
mistakes
away
this season.
you can't take away that he never made a mistake. Like this season, he was one of the
Except in
greatest.
Brazil
Yeah, but like, come
in,
on.
qual-
Come on.
in qualifying.
Yeah, but still, then he made up for it in the race. So
Yeah, true.
best driver Hamilton.
Yeah, I agree. He's been pretty good despite Mercedes being the best car.
Nah, I don't really want to say it, but I'll also go for Lewis. I think they were kind of matched, like very closely matched with Sebastian, and I would say they were equal. But Lewis was, let's say, stronger mentally and didn't have those angry outburst
Just a bit.
moments. Yeah,
Sebastian made mistakes.
one or two
Lewis
very
Hamilton
costly
never
mistakes.
did, so.
It's not like he lost the championship in Baku, but
Yes.
it was definitely a costly mistake.
Best.
And for moments like this, he didn't really deserve to be the driver of the season. So yeah, let's go
Prediction.
for Lewis. Okay, so yeah, predictions for 2018.
Predictions for 2018. Who
Red
goes
Bull
first?
Wait, I
domination.
didn't hear that.
That's what I think. I'm not lying.
Mm, I think so.
Well, best
I think-
driver.
Okay, you go first.
I haven't said my best driver yet. I think it was. I would say really it's Hamilton because his consistency all over the year and how he forced to win this fourth title was really
Yeah.
impressive to me.
So yeah, we move on to predictions. What's the first prediction we're gonna go?
I
Yeah, Constructors Championships for 2018 early predictions.
Constructors Championship. I think Constructors will be won by Mercedes, and for the driver's title, I think Sebastian. I'm optimistic for first time, and I think
I agree.
McLaren will get podiums, although I don't know about Renault.
Okay,
I'm
I
not
would
sure.
say
Well, I
yeah, go them.
agree with Andy in manufacturer and driver title, and I also would say that Alonso could score a podium and maybe also Hülkenberg, and Van Dorn. We'll see.
I think it's going to be very optimistic, but I think a Verstappen title and Mercedes constructors.
Bold.
I feel
Very optimistic.
I feel like Red Bull can make some big changes, and Ricciardo will not do as well, but it will go Verstappen, Hamilton, Vettel.
I like that.
Okay,
Well, I wonder why.
yeah, for constructors, I think we all agree that it will be Mercedes again, probably. About drivers, I don't know. I mean, that's like early predictions. It's really a lot before testing, so we'll probably make another predictions after testing to see. Early predictions, I would say it's either gonna be Vettel or Hamilton. And what about those McLaren? I think McLaren will score a win, one win. I don't know where,
By Alonso.
but they will have one win. And Renault will score one podium. That's what I'm gonna say. So, do we have anything else to talk about? We can briefly mention the junior categories, F2. We talked about Charles Leclerc already, that he's gonna drive for Alfa Romeo Sauber. He won very comfortably the F2 championship. Thoughts on him as a driver, maybe? I don't know.
He was an amazing driver in F2. He always overdrove his car.
Yeah, I definitely think that when Kimi retires, he will be the one who will replace him.
Agree.
And he is definitely one to look for the future. And definitely will be in the contention for world championships.
I'm very interested to see how he will perform next season, because Formula 1 is a new scene for him. It's not F2. It's a big step.
Yeah. I think he'll comfortably outperform his teammate. And he will score some points. Hopefully the car is good, so it helps him. So, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing him in Formula 1 next season. But something I'm not looking forward to seeing in F1 next season is the Halo. So, yeah, we're gonna have to bear with it. Anyone want to share thoughts about the Halo, or just closed him?
Well, about Leclerc, great
What-
season, and Halo, no one likes
Bullshit.
it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to bear with it for at least one season. I do believe that they are going to remove it.
It's like Hulkenberg said. He also thinks that they are gonna remove it. And he thinks that open wheel racing should be open wheel racing and should stay like that, like it is right now.
Yeah.
So I think that's been all for today. I think that's everything on our plan. That's been the Six Cylinders Podcast F1 2017 season review. If you did enjoy it, then you know what to do. Hit that like button. Comment down below what your thoughts of the season and your early predictions for next season. And also subscribe to the channel to see the future installments of this podcast when eventually preseason happens. All links, Twitter, YouTube channels will be in the description down below. So yeah, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. Bye.